Hello, and welcome to the last part of the FL Studio Basic Music Production Tutorial series. We've finally made it, we've reached the end. We've discussed mixing, mastering, track arrangement, as well as sound design, and this is the last part of the series. As my way of thanking you for having stuck with me throughout the entire series, I'd like to give you my top 5 tips for efficient music production. Tip number 1. Do not expect perfection. This is something that I was guilty of myself as well. Listening to your tracks and then expecting them to sound professional when they are your first few tracks is a really bad mistake to make. Your first 100 tracks are just made for you to be able to learn the software and how music production works. Keep in mind that although it may not be obvious, most professional producers have been producing for at least a decade, which I almost guarantee that is longer than you even knew about what music production was. So do not expect your mixes to be on par with theirs, at least not for the moment. The key to getting a professional sound is persisting throughout the songs, getting better and learning more with each track. After you have passed all the frustration and all the creativity blocks and figured out methods to efficient songwriting, you will be able to produce professional sounding songs with very little difficulty. This takes years to get to, so don't feel let down if it's difficult at first. Keep on persisting and the results will speak for themselves. Tip number 2. Develop an intimate understanding of the tools you're using. This means do not go out and buy or pirate every single synthesizer that all of your favorite artists use, because this is not going to teach you much in the long run. It is much better to select 2 synthesizers and get to know them inside and out than buy or torrent 10 different synthesizers and not know anything about using either of them. Yes, the synthesizers that you may stick with are limited, however, learning how to use that limitation to your advantage and create new sounds or get the synthesizer to do what you want is part of the learning process. Again, developing an intimate understanding of 2 tools is better than having 10 tools but not knowing how to use them. So pick something and stick with it. Tip number 3. Spend more time producing music than browsing the internet. This may sound self-explanatory, however this is something that most beginners are guilty of. They will spend hours on forums, on YouTube, watching tutorials, trying to understand how music production works. To a certain extent, such as for the very basics, this is very useful. However, from my experience, it is better that you try to figure out a lot of the things yourself, especially considering the fact that the questions most beginners have are open-ended and not easy to answer in a universal way. Say beginners have problems with layering sounds. They will look it up, however the answer to how you get a good layer is not universal and it varies from track to track. This is where experience is more useful than the technical answer. So it is better to spend more time actually producing music than looking up how you produce music. Tip number 4. The engineering side of music production is not the most important. What I mean by engineering is the mixing, mastering, and the sound design. Believe it or not, this is not what makes a track good. This is what makes a track excellent. However, if you look at the most famous of electronic music tracks, they are made with a technology so new at the time that the user could have not possibly understood what they were doing with it. The engineering is far from spotless on many classic electronic music tracks. And yet, how are they so popular? The musical idea. You can have bad sound design, bad mixing, and bad mastering, but if the musical idea is there, then that does not matter. Similarly, having a bad musical idea but having professional sound engineering will not make for a good track. Spend more time coming up with quality music ideas instead of engineering. If you're spending more than 10 minutes on designing a single sound, then you need to reset your priorities. Spend more time writing music and not engineering. Tip number 5. Do not spend too much time working on details when the arrangement itself is not finished. This may sound hypocritical because this tutorial series is entirely based off of doing as much detail as possible in different sections without the arrangement being finished. This was something that was simply done in order to facilitate the teaching process. However, I do not recommend that you actually go about making tracks like this. Sure, you can get the mix sounding good with a couple effects and volume adjustments and compressors. However, do not overdo it with effects and other such background noises when the entire track is not done. The reasoning behind this is that if you spend too much time working on details and not on the actual musical composition, you will go out of what I call the zone. This means that after you finish perfecting the song section that you were working on with all the effects and all the mixing you could possibly want to do and it sounds amazing, you will not know what to do next. You will be stuck and you will not know where to go after that. I've made several good drops of songs because that's what inspired me at first, but then I wanted to go to something else and I just didn't know what to do. As such, it is important that you first get the track arrangement set. Once you start songwriting, it is very easy to get into a zone and get into a flow where you can compose parts that sound good together very, very quickly. After you get out of the zone, it is very difficult to get back into it. For me at least. So switch on your brain, start working on all the music and writing everything down, and then you can work on the engineering. That is about it for the FL Studio Music Production Tutorial Series. Thank you for sticking with me throughout this entire series, and remember that everything I teach is strictly subjective. It is what I like to do, however it is not the only way to do things. Take time to develop your own style, experiment with the techniques provided, and don't forget to have fun. Once again, thank you for sticking with me throughout this entire project, and I hope that you will be with me for the rest of the music that I will be releasing on this channel. See you next time.